Enter. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Good morning. Woo! We are so glad that you are here. For those of you joining us in the building today and those of you joining us online, our hearts are filled to be together. Those of us joining in the building, I hope you noticed the sidewalk chalk welcoming us back as we walked in. That is the labor of love from our lovely Bats youth. So we appreciate them and their welcome. And now let us come together by the light of our chalice flame. Please join me in our words for lighting the chalice. If you're joining us on Zoom, we invite you to light a candle or a chalice at home with us. We light this flame as a symbol of new life, enlightening our way, as a symbol of the warmth in every human heart. Let the lighting of this flame rekindle in us the inner light of hope, of peace, of love. May we share that light with all people.
Good morning.
Good morning, Marty.
We are so glad to welcome you to the Fox Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, whether you're joining us here in this room or with us from your own home. I am Marty Wheeler, and I am currently on the Immigration Justice team. If this is your first Sunday visiting with us, we give you a special welcome. It was about this time of year, 37 years ago, when I first walked in the doors of this fellowship, not this one, but the one on Superior Street, with my husband and my 2-year-old and 4-year-old daughters. I now have grandchildren older than that. So during that 37 years, it's possible that I have seen a few changes. We called a senior minister. We were able to add more staff. We built this building. We were able to call an associate minister. And we did the addition of this gorgeous sanctuary. And we were able to offer richer and deeper programming. And all of this for the purpose of being able to truly welcome anyone that found their way to our doors, or in the last year and a half, found us on Zoom gatherings. Yes, things have changed. I surely don't know everyone anymore, and I don't know what's happening in every corner of this community, which is good. But I do know that we continue to be a community working together to help each of us live our best life, to feel connected, and to help make this world a better place for all. And I also know that one important way to feel connected to the fellowship is to take a class, join a small group, sing in the choir, help out in RE. And our awesome director of congregational life, Marie Luna, would love to help you get connected here. Feel free to chat with her after the service or send her an email. So if you were one of the people that gave my family a warm welcome 37 years ago, or if this is your very first time joining us, welcome. Today's service is being led and supported by the Reverend Christina Leon Tracy, our senior minister, by the Reverend Leah Angari, all the way from Oregon via Zoom, Allie Peters, our assistant minister, Steve Seek, our music director, and our wonderful volunteer, wonderful musicians. And the reason you can hear me, the reason you can see us, our incredible AV technician, Adam Robinson. And please also welcome Jonathan Steffen, who will be an additional AV tech. And Adam asks for a little patience and grace today as he is training Jonathan. So thank you to everyone who is making this morning's service possible. And now it is time to settle in. Take a deep breath, become aware of your body wherever you are, and allow yourself to come into this sanctuary so that we can be fully present at this time together. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, it's so good to hear that. Before we do our responsive call to gather, I want us to gather together into this sanctuary, whether we are sitting in these seats or whether we are gathering from home. And so in a moment, I am going to ask those of you who are joining us from home to have your camera on so that you can wave at us here in the sanctuary. So if you want to get ready for that. And those of us here in the building, if you are willing to sort of turn toward the center and wave really big, because we're going to say hi to the people at home. So Adam is going to, we can't see it, but Adam is going to show us on Zoom. Adam, let us know when you're ready. Okay, everybody wave, wave. You're facing this way, the camera is in the middle, don't worry. Hi, hi at home, we're so happy to see you. And then those of us who are joining on from home, hi everybody. We're so happy to see you. Thanks for joining us. Our responsive call to gather this morning is adapted from the Reverend Leslie Takahashi Morris. When I indicate like this, your response is, we gather in the spirit of love. Let's try that together. We gather in the spirit of love. We gather as many drops, each winding our own path down life's surfaces and ruts. We gather in the spirit of love. Here we pool together as a single body, flowing together for a time. We gather in the spirit of love. Together we are a stream, at times even a river, for with our shared force, we can travel toward oceans of meaning and seas of connection. We gather in the spirit of love.
Good morning.
Good morning.
In Unitarian Universalism, we are spiritually committed to abundance. And when it comes to our resources, we reject a scarcity mindset of fear, shame, and silence. At each service, we have a chance to practice this, to take stock of what we have, what we might need, what we might give, and how we feel called to support our fellowship and other worthy recipients. For those among us who would appreciate support, financial, emotional, or otherwise, please reach out to me, Reverend Christina, or Minister Allie. Care is available. All among us are also invited to contribute. We need your time, talent, and commitment. And we specifically need financial resources so that our ministries might endure and thrive for months and years and decades to come. There are many ways to give to the fellowship. If you're here in our sanctuary, you can come up to an usher at the back of the sanctuary or raise your hand if you would like one to come to you. Contributions can also be made online at our website or via text to give on a smartphone. Let our giving and receiving be acts of joy and celebration.
If you'd like to join in singing, the words are, "There's a river flowing in my soul," 2 times, and it's telling me that I'm somebody, and then, "There's a river flowing in my soul." There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. Telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul.
Our first reading this morning is a story by the Reverend Chris Buse entitled Higgins, A Drop with a Dream. And thank you to Steve and Allie and David for assisting this morning in our story. Once upon a time, there was a drop of water named Higgins. Higgins was no ordinary drop of water. He was a drop with a dream. Higgins lived in a valley where it had not rained in a very long time. So all the lovely green grass was turning brown, all the beautiful flowers were wilting, and all the trees were starting to droop. Higgins had a dream that one day the valley would be a beautiful place again. But what could he do? After all, he was only a drop of water. One day, Higgins decided to travel and tell others about his dream. All the other drops listened very politely, but no one believed that his dream would come true.
"Higgins," said one, "get your head out of the clouds. You can't spend your whole life dreaming."
Higgins decided that he had to do something to make his dream come true. So he began to think and think and think. One day, as he was walking by a rusty old bucket, he got an idea. Higgins thought to himself,
if enough of us drops of water get together and do some serious hydrogen bonding in this bucket, there'll be enough water to sprinkle on a few flowers, help them grow, and then they would bloom and be beautiful again.
Eagerly, Higgins told everyone his great idea, but everyone thought he was being foolish. They said,
That Higgins is nothing but a dreamer.
Higgins decided he had to do something to convince the others that he was right. So he said to them,
listen up, you drops out there. We need to get in this bucket. We need to get in this bucket and we need to feed the flowers. We need to make them grow again.
So Higgins ran as hard as he could and he hopped way up into the air and then he landed with a kerplunk in the bottom of the bucket. And there he sat, just a drop in the bucket. For a long time, Higgins was very lonely. It seemed like no one else was going to join him. But after a while, some of the other drops could see that the grass was dying and the flowers were wilting and the trees were drooping. They all agreed that something must be done. Suddenly, one drop shouted,
I'm going in the bucket with Higgins!
And he leapt through the air and landed kerplunk in the bucket. Then two other drops yelled, hey, wait for us! And they hopped through the air and landed in the bucket. Then 10 drops jumped in the air and landed in the bucket. Then 30. Then 50. And then hundreds of drops came from all around just to hop in the bucket. Soon the bucket was completely full of water, but there were still more drops that wanted to join, so they found another bucket and hopped in. Before 10, and then hundreds, and then thousands of buckets of water. Along came a powerful breeze, and it blew over all the buckets, and all of the water flowed together to make a mighty stream. And everywhere where the water flowed, the grass turned green again, and the flowers bloomed, and the trees stood tall and straight once more. And all of this happened because Higgins had a dream, and his dream came true because he knew that although he was just a drop in the bucket, enough drops in the bucket make a bucket full. And where there are enough buckets with the wind behind them, then justice will roll down like waters, and righteousness like a mighty stream.
Has anyone here ever done that experiment where you use an eyedropper to squeeze little drops of water onto a coin and see how many drops you can fit? Anyone done this? Okay, great. The 9 a.m. service looked at me like I was bananas. Okay. So you watch it really closely, right? One by one, you watch each drop fall. You're counting the drops, waiting to see when the water will spill off. If you've done this, like me, you may always be surprised by how many drops you can actually fit on that small little head of a nickel or a penny or even a dime. It's more than you'd expect. The special hydrogen bonds between water molecules help them to hold so strongly together that they become one water. The drops clinging to each other, so determined to not let another drop fall off the coin. Leave no drop behind. It's this property of water, those hydrogen bonds, that are a part of why I love picturing our story that we just heard this morning. We've got Higgins, the drop with the dream, and he jumps into the bucket. Then another drop does the same, then another, then another. But if we look inside this bucket, we don't see the bucket filling with individual drops. If we looked inside this bucket, we would see what? We'd see a puddle gathering at the bottom of the bucket. We would see one water. You can't see where one drop ends and another drop begins, because all of these drops are using those hydrogen bonds to hug each other so closely. How easy it has been for all of us just to feel like individual drops in a bucket during these past 19 months, right? Safety precautions and anxiety have diluted our waters, making it harder to feel those bonds between us as potently as we used to. And all of us here know that this invitation back to the building this morning, unfortunately, does not mean the end of the pandemic or that the pandemic is behind us. But I will say, today, as bodies together gather in this room and bodies gather around screens at the same time, joining us online, it is a beautiful reminder that we are one water. We're not simply individual drops in the bucket. And with the breeze of our faith guiding us, our community is one that gives life. And as we gather for our annual water mingling ritual this year after our service, it is important to honor the fact that we are not the same as we once were. Things look a little different than they've looked before. Things feel a little different than they've felt before. Or for those of us joining us for the first time, welcome newcomers, everything is brand new. So in that way, water actually becomes our best teacher. Because you see, another cool thing about water, all water, is that at the same time, it is always old and always new. Water doesn't simply get created. The water that we drink, the water we bathe in, the water we swim in, the water that makes up 70% of our bodies, that water's been here a super long time. It's been filtered through every part of history, through streams, through plants, through animals, through vapor, through clouds, through faucets. Experts tell us that there are molecules of water that are even older than the sun. But at the same time, water is always new. Different drops of water moving and flowing and mixing with other drops they haven't met before, becoming new waters. I mean, what is it they say? You never step in the same river twice, right? The same goes for us in community together. We are always old and always new. Always old, carrying with us our communities, memories, our rich histories, our rituals, and always new, changing and moving and becoming. Let us embrace this old and this new together as we combine our waters after this service and find our way forward together. May it be so. And amen.
runs to us all. From the bright rushing rapids to the pools where currents go, and born on the water, our hopes and our plans. We stand here today with a vessel in our hand. Bring me your memory, burning here of mine. Pour in your tears and your laughter that shines. Tell me of your highways, tell me of your trail. I'll be your wind, you be my sail. We may scatter in the springtime to places far and near. And when the wild geese fly, bring those journeys here. Did you climb that mountain, lay in the meadow sun? One journey over, next one be gone. Bring me your memory, running here with mine. Pour in your tears and your laughter that shines. Tell me of your highways, tell me of your trails. I'll be your wind, you be my sail. So here we are, the doors are open again. It's nice to meet you and see you again, my old friend. We've been through a lot, it's been a long dark night. Tell me your story, let's add to the light. Bring me your memories, landing here with mine. Pour in your tears, your laughter that shines. Tell me of your highways, tell me of your trails. I'll be your wind, you be my sail.
Our second reading comes from a story called The Long, Slow Swell of the Sea by Janine K. Grossmeyer from the book A Lamp in Every Corner. I speak now of a time of great changes, of the ebb and the flow of an ever advancing tide, and of a long, slow swell of the sea. The women are rising. The women had always been there, of course, from the beginning, across the globe, down through the ages, in the homes of their families. The women fetched the water, gathered and prepared the food, made the clothes, tended the fires, and cared for the children, the sick, and the old. In this country, through the centuries, In the sacred places of their communities, the women cleaned the buildings, decorated the altars, brought the food, sang in the choir, helped the poor, and listened from the pews. From the beginning, the women had been there, but mostly they had been silenced. And mostly they held no power in their hands. Mostly the decisions had been made by the men. No more. The women were rising with the long, slow swell of the sea. In the year 1977, a group of women gathered around a butcher block in the kitchen of the Unitarian Universalist Church in Lexington, Massachusetts. They decided that women should be and would be heard. That summer, the Unitarian Universalist General Assembly agreed to their proposal, and the Women and Religious Resolution was formed. Our bylaws were updated, our songs were revised, our principles reframed so that he became he or she, and later on they. And man or mankind became people or humankind. At this time, a seventh principle was added: respect for the interdependent web of all life, man and women, stones, butterflies, and trees. The words weren't the only things to change. People's ideas were changing too. The women were rising, and the tide was flowing over the land. In 1980, a great gathering was held, a convocation on feminist theology. And the people came from all over the land to honor their journeys. Journeys through space and time, journeys with joy and pain, journeys completed, journeys ongoing, journeys not yet begun. Two women, Lucille Longview and Carolyn McDade, created a ceremony of water sharing for them all. For the women were rising, and water had carried them there. From the mouth of the Mississippi, from the Atlantic and the Pacific, the women and the waters came. From the mountains and the deserts, from rivers and streams, the women and the waters came. From the oceans of the ages, from the ancient womb of life that created us, the women and the waters came. In a circle of hundreds, they gathered. In a circle of hundreds, they sang. In a circle unbroken, they listened to each other's stories, and they listened as the waters fell, and they came forth with their water, those waters from all over the land, and they mingled the waters in a great earthen bowl. Then, as they had each given to the waters, they each took from the waters. In this taking, they reclaimed the water. In this taking, they reclaimed their history and laid claim to their future and the future of all living things. A vow to each other and a vow to themselves. Then, in their circle, they sang, "We're coming home." The women were rising, and the waters were rising, and great change was sweeping over the land with the long, slow swell of the sea. And the people all of them were coming home.
I love that story. It's a true story. It's the story of the water mingling. And I am grateful to those women who carved a path for me, for Reverend Leah, for Allie, for the over 50% of Unitarian Universalist ministers who are women. And at that first water mingling, they sang, "I'm coming home," which we will sing together in a little while. And I am so grateful that we also have our beautiful, special fellowship water mingling song that we sing each year, thanks to Doug Wheeler. In the same way that all waters are connected to each other, so we are also connected as Unitarian Universalists around the country and even the world as we celebrate this water mingling ritual today. Now, if you grew up in another tradition, you might find the idea of rituals powerfully meaningful, or maybe the opposite, empty. If you grew up in no tradition, you might wonder what the heck these embodied practices are all about. If you were raised as a Unitarian Universalist, you will feel the familiarity of this ritual in your bones. This year, we are embarking on a theme of rediscovering ourselves, our community, our faith, our values, and so much more after the last 18, 19 months of pandemic stress and chaos that unfortunately is continuing now and into the future. Rituals like mingling of the waters help us to rediscover our place in the interconnected web of all existence as we ponder the waters of our ancestors, the waters that sustained our families of origin and our current home. Where did you grow up? What body of water was nearby? I grew up relatively near the Trinity River in Texas. I spent a few years enjoying the mighty Mississippi in Memphis, Tennessee. Later, I remember a funny exchange with a colleague at a gathering out west, where they were all talking about the bay. And I said, "Which bay?" Having lived on the Maryland coast for years at that point, they all looked at me as if I was new to the planet Earth. "There's only one bay," they said, inferring that the San Francisco Bay was the only one worth talking about, which my Chesapeake heart indignantly scoffed at. Now I am near the Fox River and Lake Butamort and another bay, the Green Bay. And I rediscover that the waters that continue to connect me to the earth, to place, and to the indigenous people who came before me. Rituals like mingling of the waters help us rediscover our fellowship home. As we pour our waters, we honor the many places that the waters came from, even as we do so now silently. We honor the diversity among us in age, and I just want to point out our children out that window over there, which just makes my heart happy. The diversity in age and life stage, race, class, ability to travel, physical ability or disability, and of course, the diversity in our theologies. Like the waters, we mingle together and we enrich each other through our presence, through our connections, both in person and online. If you didn't bring your water today, that is fine. We have plenty of water out there, and those of you who are joining us on Zoom can mingle your water anytime today or tomorrow. Rituals like mingling of the waters help us rediscover our Unitarian Universalist faith tradition. We are not alone in this ritual practice. We are joined by our UU siblings around the country and around the world today. And one thing I love about water mingling, unlike flower communion, which takes place for us in early June, but for congregations around the country might take place as early as April because that's when flowers bloom. Water mingling always happens in mid-September, and it always symbolizes the regathering, the way the women gathered using this ritual 40 years ago, as shared in the story that we heard a few moments ago. As Unitarian Universalists, we sometimes struggle to articulate our theology or agree with each other in words about what is most meaningful, but sometimes ritual can transcend all of that. And this morning, we invite you to take time for this ritual practice, pouring your water outside after this service, or anytime today or tomorrow, and to contemplate as you pour what you need to rediscover this coming year. And then we will take the water, as we do each autumn. We will clean it so that it can be used in other rituals, child dedications, wedding ring blessings, ash scattering ceremonies, and more. We also invite you, as you pour your water, to take from the water like the women did 40 years ago, to dip your fingers in and take some of it home to reclaim it for yourself. These waters connect us powerfully to each other, both in spirit and in practice. Amen, and may it be so. We are a people of all ages who bring our joys and concerns to this time together. We hope that you experience a welcome that helps you find the connection of mutual support, a spirituality that helps you find meaning, peace to ground you, and a zest for rediscovering life as it unfolds. We invite you to let us be a resource in our common quest for celebrating happy moments, seeking healing and wholeness, and continually rediscovering whoever and wherever we might be on the path of existence. For those of us who are joining in person, after this service, you can place a stone in our fellowship chalice as a symbol of our loving community surrounding you supportively. The stones can be found in the bowl by the sanctuary doors, and they can just be placed up here in our chalice. For those of you who are attending virtually, you can share in the chat box whatever joy, concern, prayer request, or intention might be in your heart or on your mind. We will place a stone in the chalice now on your behalf. For care and connection during the week, please reach out to Allie or to Reverend Leah or contact our office. If you'd like to be included on our weekly care email, you can email anyone on our staff, call the office, or fill out our website form. May the joys and concerns that we type into our chat box, share out loud, or simply hold in our hearts' silent sanctuaries, may they draw us together so that our joy is amplified, our sorrow comforted, and our life journeys witnessed. And now we turn our attention to the joys and concerns wider than those of our gathered community. We allow our mind and our heart to reach out in ever widening circles, outward, like the ripples in water. This act of heart expanding might be, and I hope it can be, joyful. But sometimes it might be uncomfortable or even downright painful. And our faith reminds us, though, that stretching ourselves to this awareness is the first movement toward creating a community and a world filled with love and justice. Our first stone is for the joys, concerns, and transitions that are here among us. As the water ripples out, we add another stone to expand our hearts to the wider Fox Valley community, to the state of Wisconsin. This week, we will honor all of the schools, teachers, administrators, students, families who are navigating the beginning of the school year and all of the stress and anxiety that COVID has brought. Next, we add a stone for our nation and for all of the hurricanes, floods, wildfires that continue to impact communities near and far. We hold those communities and the messages from our earth in our heart. As these ripples continue outward, we add our final stone for the wider world, a recognition of the deep interconnection with those across borders and oceans. This week, we hold the people of Afghanistan in our expanding hearts. We pray for peace and for justice, and we hold close those refugees who are fleeing violence, including those who will be relocating here to the Fox cities soon. We enfold all who are celebrating and all who are suffering in the embrace of our hearts, and we commit ourselves to acts of compassion and justice in service to those circles who are beyond our own. May this moment of silence help to make it so.
Our time together is coming to a close, which means our time to return to the world and to our daily lives is beginning. Our hope is that each week when we worship together, we provide each other with inspiration and empowerment to connect our values with our actions. Remember that there are always ways to get connected here, both in person and online, and to live your faith more fully. Be sure to read the weekly Scroll newsletter, or let us know if you'd like to be added to that mailing list. And check out the back of your order of service for some highlights about what is coming up. Now, as we prepare our hearts to leave this gathering, we invite you to ponder what you wish to take home with you. What lesson, idea, or theme you will carry with you from this time together back to your daily life. Now let's share those with each other. Take this moment to speak one or two words into the silence, allowing our voices to overlap as a chorus of intentions for our week. Community. As we come to the end of our service, we will extinguish our chalice flame, even as we still hold its light in our hearts. Please join me in our unison words. As we extinguish this flame, let us go our ways with hope in our hearts, with our spirits renewed, and with a deeper understanding of life's mystery. Let us carry the light of compassion and commitment to build a better world. After our closing words, we will hear a postlude song. We invite everyone after that postlude song, everyone here in the building, to follow out our front doors for our water mingling ceremony. If you brought water with you to pour into our shared vessel, then bring that along with you. If you did not, that's fine, because we have water for you to pour as well. Those of you who are joining us from home, we welcome you sometime today or tomorrow to come to the fellowship and pour your water in with ours. And with that, go in community, go in peace, knowing we wait to embrace you upon your return.
stuff. Good stuff.